it's cool to talk about like exactly the optimal amount. When Mike Mentzer and his boys get on that shit, most people are like, yes, exactly the optimal. Yes, yeah. And then they're expecting, like, so what is it? Like, it's just one set. Or it's whatever Dorian did. And it's like, but excuse me, how do you know that? And it just turns out they don't. They just kind of fucking made it up. Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization. Mike Mentzer. I don't know a lot about Mike Mentzer. I think he had a mustache. Scott's a video guy. Didn't he wear really thick-rimmed glasses?
Yeah, short shorts.
Short shorts. And to me, that's good enough because that's style, and gets you wet. At least in the 80s and also again today because the 80s are making a comeback, which I think is great. But IRL, Mr. Mike Mentzer, he was a very good pro bodybuilder, an Olympian, which is much more than I can say for myself. In the 1980s, he competed against Arnold, among others, and arguably looked a little better than Arnold at least one competition. He adopted Arthur Jones' HIIT, high-intensity training model, and trained and coached others in that model, or his own version called heavy-duty training, which is very, very similar in the grand scheme. And he was really HIIT and heavy-duty. He was that philosophy's biggest proponent. And so now Mr. Mike Mentzer, who is deceased, unfortunately, is having a posthumous blooming second renaissance. Renaissance, where did I see that name? And so that's really cool because it's getting a lot of attention and he's got a lot of wise shit to say and some stuff to say that's like maybe doesn't make as much sense as it could. So we're going to talk about quickly what high intensity training really is. And we've got other videos about it too. And then we are going to take some Mike Mentzer quotes, break them down, see what's really good about them, see what's maybe not so great, and then try to kind of develop a picture of what is it that you could get out of Mike Mentzer's philosophy and teachings and what maybe you can sort of leave on the table for the dogs to eat. You take all the Mike Mentzer chaff and you just do this. Then you have the hounds below the table like, arr, 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 arr. Jesus Christ, are those my dogs? The fuck is going on here? Anyway, what is high intensity training? HIIT. It's a great acronym. Scott, didn't you have a misunderstanding with the law that, no, never mind. Zip the lip. The court date hasn't come through yet. Well, we got him bonded out. He's here doing videos. So very few sets per muscle per session. Now, here's the thing. Quick disclaimer. There's a lot of goalpost stuff, logical fallacies going on when you try to pin down what HIIT is to people. There's a lot of Mott and Bailey fallacy going on where like it's one thing, but that's another. And so in good faith, what I'm going to try to do here is define the HIIT philosophy in the most broad but still inclusive terms. So it's like if I was talking about democracy, I wouldn't just say like, here's democracy. It's all about America. You're like, but don't other countries have democracies? At least a little bit different. Sure. So America, Western Europe, and the free countries of Asia. Okay. So now that's pretty representative of democracy. Kind of like that. So there's a couple different ways to skin the HIIT cat. Jesus Christ, he's still alive. That's not funny. Come on. It's a little funny. It's pretty funny, but we'll stop. A couple of grand observations about what the heavy duty /HIIT /Arthur Jones, Mike Mentzer philosophy really is at its core of training. And if you think I'm being too general, please tell me in the comments. If you think I'm being oddly specific and not general enough, please do tell. But this is my sort of best effort. And by the way, I used to train like this. My first, something like my first 5 years of training. And I loved it. And so I'm not biased against it. But with a little clarity through time and lots of education and research, I can sort of see the pluses and minuses. I think at least this is my best attempt to teach you guys something. Or just awkward for me to be seen as a teacher. By the way, if you go to the Google machine, you type in my first sex teacher. No, don't do that. Don't do that if you're at work. Scott, you doing it now? Typing away. God damn. What is HIIT? High intensity training. Categorized by the following three things. One, there are very few sets per muscle per session. Some HIIT advocates will say just one set per muscle per session. That's right. You got legs, it's a set of leg press for quads. That's it, one set. Other HIIT advocates are, well, there's a couple warm-up sets that have some kind of effect, one very working set, very top set. Some people do 2 or 3 top sets even. Derivative programs like Dog Crap, which is a real name of a program. I know it sounds kind of absurd, but it's actually a very good program. And then Dorian Yates, who came out of this lineage, similar programs. It's just a little bit different, but low volume. We're not talking about showing up to the gym and doing 20 fucking sets of quads. There is no high intensity-ish program that looks like that. We're talking about like 2, 3, maybe 5 sets per muscle is like the limit of what you could ideologically sequester into HIIT, where people are still like, okay, fine, you're doing it justice. Next, all working sets generally are to failure or even beyond. So if someone says they train with HIIT style, they love Arthur Jones, they like Dorian Yates, they like Mike Mentzer, Dante Trudell, etc., and then you watch them do a work set where they're like, and rack, didn't you have like 3 more? And they're like, yeah. Didn't you say you did HIIT training? They're like, no, you fucking don't. You lying. So one of the biggest things about high intensity training, as almost everyone who's even tangentially related to it as prescribed, is generally speaking, they like to grind to failure and sometimes beyond, which means what? Drop sets, forced reps, supersets, the whole fucking thing. And lastly, the third feature of HIIT, we got first feature is very few sets per muscle per session. Second feature is all work sets, generally to failure or beyond. And the third is low frequency. Usually that means training every muscle group once a week, and very rarely any more than that. So again, if you see someone grinding every set to failure, all right, they only did 4 sets for the workout for like biceps. Okay. But they do biceps 3 or 4 days a week. Could that be a HIIT derivative? Yes. Is it really living up to that model, the true inspiration? If HIIT was some kind of zombie that made of Arthur Jones and Mike Mentzer and Dorian's still alive, why not part of his face? And they're just like, you animate it. If you show it a picture of someone doing a workout, will it go, friend? Or will it be like, and rips the mirror and fucking the camera and it's out of the lab and you have to put it down with nukes? The usual. So if you're doing the same muscle multiple times a week, the HIIT amalgam monster, it's probably going to kill you or try. If you're doing a muscle once a week, if you're doing all work sets to failure or beyond, if you are doing very few sets per session per muscle, the HIIT monster will probably give you a hug. And you give it a flower and it's like, Rose. You're like, oh God, I'm so glad you're here finally, Mr. HIIT monster, my only friend. So now that we are all on the same page, more or less, let me know in the comments if you disagree. I'll just block you. I don't like people disagreeing with me, ever. Now that we know what HIIT generally is, what I did next will shock you. Hey, Scott's Video Guy, can we do that for a thumbnail title? What Dr. Mike does next will shock you. And it's just a picture of like Mike Mentzer, because that's what fucks on the internet today. What the fuck are these videos even about? I asked ChatGPT. Now hold up. Before you start talking that shit, ChatGPT is probably smarter than you. It's just true. Also, it's ChatGPT 4 because your boy pays for that shit. So it's that latest model, baby. So it knows things. I asked ChatGPT to find me 10 Mike Mentzer quotes that it thought were some combination of popular quotes and controversial quotes. Ooh, just feeding the YouTube algorithm here. And I'm going to take a look at each one of these 10 quotes and try to see where it does good things, the light, and then try to see where maybe it says some things that we're not so willing to say are the truest things in the world. Pluses and minuses, like the whole world. So my mom used to say. A lot of minuses in my childhood. Anyway, Mike Mentzer, quote number 1. Quote, any exercise carried on beyond the least amount required to stimulate an optimal increase is not merely a waste of effort. It is actually highly counterproductive. Okay, dope. Let's talk about the good stuff first. Doing too much effort, too much training is actually bad for your gains. So I love the sociological reality. You have two just total fucking idiots at the gym. And they look the same. Stringer, weird haircut. They're curling with sunglasses on. Why? Bros. I'm talking about some bro. Like, motherfucker can barely read and shit. But he's at the gym and he likes to say shit. And you got two sides of that coin. One guy's like, there's no such thing as overtraining, bro. It's all fucking mental. Just got to get after it. I eat 30 fucking sets of biceps. And after that, I do 5 more sets. You're like, wouldn't that be 35? He's like, no, it's a fucking pussy way of thinking about it. Okay, fine. 2 notations. And then the other guy is a super hit guy. It's like, anything over 1 set is a fucking insane proposition. You're not working hard enough in that 1 set if you need another one. You just see it's like Mothra versus Godzilla clashes and the stupidity rays shoot at each other. In any case, it turns out that, yes, there's a huge good point here against Mr. High Volume Bro. Your adaptive systems, the ones that make you better, actually compete for some of the same resources with the systems that help you recover. Okay? So it's like, if I've used this analogy before, if an office building gets a little bit fucked up by some strong winds, you have plenty of money in the fund to buy new furniture and new desks and new upholstery and all that stuff. But if it's a tornado and it rips half the fucking building apart, you ain't getting new shit so much as you can barely replace the old shit. The body works in much the same way. If you stimulate it very hard but give it some room to adapt, it grows. If you go all the fucking way and just milk every single little ounce of ability out of your muscles and drain the fuck out of them, there's not much left for making gains. Your body's like, holy shit, this is so fucked up. I just got to kind of clean this up as best I can, and it'll get you just back to where you used to be, which sucks. You do not go into the gym to spill your fucking blood and guts all over the floor, hopefully not literally, but leg day is a thing, in order to just get back to where you got. And you can do that if you go too hard, 100%. If you crush yourself way past the point of maximum gains, which is called the maximum adaptive volume, you just need more time and resources to heal, which either means the resources are misspent healing you versus growing you, or if you can heal and then grow and then super compensate, you can't do that as often because it takes so goddamn long to heal your ass up. Like if you do 4 sets of quads, you can train quads twice a week and they grow real well. If you do 8 sets of quads, I'm talking about hard. You might only be able to train them once a week. But then the last 2 sets are kind of like you're wasting your time anyway, and it causes so much damage, it's not even a whole lot of growth. So it ends up being that 4 sets twice a week is usually better than 8 sets once a week, or something to that effect. So it's absolutely true that just doing extra effort is fucking stupid, and Mike Mentzer was 100% right about this. The bad. Now, guys, please forgive me in advance. I'm trying to make sure I get a little bit of good, a little bit bad with each one of these. Generally speaking, I think this quote is fucking baller. So I'm going to be pedantic occasionally. What would I be if I wasn't a professor and, dare I say, also a JOO? How's that funny to you, Scott? Every fucking thing I say, this got a little white supremacy in it. This motherfucker laughing his ass off. Spelling. Yeah, sure. You people can't fucking spell.
I can spell potato, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet if I give you the same letter 3 times in a row, close to the letter L. See how loud he's laughing? No, we don't got to cut that. People can figure that shit out. Guys, I'm good. I'm a good person. Scott, the video guy's a bad guy. In any case, we got to keep that in. All right. Here's me being pedantic, so don't take this too seriously, but that's nonetheless is technically true. He says the least amount of effort required to stimulate an optimal increase. There's a problem with that. There is no such thing as the least amount of effort required to do the optimal. There is just the effort required to do the optimal. Why is it least? You could say it's the most amount of effort required to do the optimal. That could probably be the same number, because the way that normal distributions work in biology is generally it's a curve with a distinct peak-ish area. And when you get to that peak, it's just a certain optimal out. For example, Mr. Jeff Nippert kind of did his own little review of the literature a little while back. And this is a little tiny bit dated, but it's mostly correct. And he found that per session, per muscle, it is saying nothing about how many sessions you do a week, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 6 or whatever. Roughly the maximum adaptive volume that you do, the best gains you're likely to have on average, is like 6 sets per muscle. What the fuck would the minimum amount to get to 6 sets be? Conceptually, it just makes no fucking sense. With 6, it's not less, it's not more, it's just 6. It's an apex, so it's just 1 point. And I think there are more intellectual ways, if it's a very flat distribution, to say the least is better, and that's totally true. So I do have love for that. But I also think this phrasing betrays his bias, Mike Mentzer's bias, towards minimalism. Because he was absolutely biased towards doing less. And there's not a goddamn thing wrong with that on principle. Well, other than the bias part. But it's totally cool to have a proclivity to believe a certain way, which just got to be a fact that we call that out. So I think it's one of those like, if you start to think a lot like Mike Mentzer and you're trying to think logically, at some point the roads are going to diverge a little bit because not everyone was right about shit, me included, but just me by a long shot. You guys should have seen my first relationship. I was wrong about a lot of stuff. I'm just kidding. I've never had a first relationship. So in the end, intellectually, it's much more accurate to consider an optimal dose, not a minimum optimal. There may be no such thing. So, all right, that's quote number 1. Quote number 2. Quote, in order to lead the orchestra, you must first turn your back to the crowd. Scott's video guy, I was inclined to believe that people that did orchestra in middle school and high school were just people that weren't having sex. Tell me I'm wrong. It's true. Facts. Dems facts. People who played an instrument in high school. 2 things. Stay calm and feel free to call the friends that you don't have to cry about it. I'm joking. I was actually of a lower sociological tier than people that played instruments because I didn't have the talent nor my parents the money to get an instrument. So I was in choir. How many of you guys were in choir against your will in elementary and middle school? Let me know in the comments. Scott, did you sing? What did you do?
In middle school?
Yeah, like in music class.
Oh, I don't remember.
You were high on marijuana.
I was in the jazz band.
Oh, no way. Did you slay?
In middle school?
I don't know. I assume you, being Mr. Giga Chad, slayed every fucking conceivable waking hour of your life. This is the modesty voice he puts on. Anyway. All right. So in order to lead the orchestra, you must first turn your back on the crowd. Here's the good part of that quote. You can't do your best work if you let naysaying or groupthink or crowd madness get to you, and that's 100%. Sometimes a lot of people, most people, will say shit that's just fucking wrong. Just wrong. It was categorically. Like, not to put too fine a point on it, but so like, fuck it, I'll just say it. And I know alt-right people get at me in the comments. There's plenty of mean things to say about every race. But Hitler at one point said something like, nobody's going to beat a properly trained white athlete. Jesse Owens ran right through that motherfucker. It is just, I guess, it's an absurd statement. So why the fuck would you ever say it? But a lot of people thought at the time, most Germans are like, yes, of course, absolutely. If someone there was like, what the fuck? You guys ever seen black people do sports? Are you out of your fucking mind? The answer is no one had. So in any case, people generally have views at various points about plenty of woke shit that makes no goddamn sense. We're not allowed to say it because we don't want to get canceled. So a lot of times, if you just follow along, the flow goes downstream, and that's not good. And many innovators are just that. They are innovators because they went their own way. And that's a beautiful thing that's super fucking true. That's the good stuff. What's the bad stuff? First, the crowd can have a lot of really smart things to tell you. If you go on your social media and you're like, hey guys, any recommendations for good Netflix shows? You're going to get a lot of good stuff on there. You're going to get a lot of shit too. Hey, I've got a show. It's called Fuck Kill Yourself, Dr. Mike. Welcome. Thank you. Excellent. But a lot of times people have absolutely great advice, and the wisdom of crowds is a real thing. And if you survey loads of responses, loads of opinions, learn from as many people as you can, you get a crap load of aggregate data, each with slightly different views of the world. And if you're good at integrating that data, you can generate unbelievable amounts of wisdom, not going your own way, but going mega with the crowd, just intelligently with the crowd. In a certain sense, Mike Mentzer turned his back on a lot of his critics at the time, and he might have been better served turning his back to them a little bit more often to hear what they have to say, because that would have improved his own philosophy. Turning your back to the crowd guarantees you're going to conduct the orchestra until they're like, sir, what the fuck are you doing? Can you put those fucking reeds down? And we're just going to have the police shoot you if you don't leave. I tried to get in this Detroit Symphony Orchestra once to conduct, and they told me you can't come back to this building technically until 2988. That's how long the ban is. So yeah, if you turn your back, you can conduct the orchestra, but that often results in terrible music being played because you should have turned to the crowd and been like, what do you guys want to hear? Can anyone teach me how to play music, by the way? I don't know how to conduct music. Scott, you're a music guy. Is conducting just like all pizzazz? Like, is it all just fucking just alpha energy? Like that one motherfuckers, you got like 18 fucking Chinese people who know better how to play the fucking Yao Ming shit. What the fuck is that called? The fucking, not the
Violin.
No, the viola. That's some other shit. They know what the fuck they're doing. I got to teach them shit. Isn't it just about just baller, just being like, just waving your arms around? Isn't that what gets it?
I actually took a conducting class in college as part of my music degree.
Of course you did.
And a really good like choir just kind of takes care of their own shit. But
conductors, you ain't shit. Quote, Scott the video guy. Write that down. In any case, maybe a little bit better advice. And I'm being super presumptuous, of course. Mike Mentzer had great advice. Maybe another piece of advice you could consider is listen to your own thoughts. They're highly important, and a lot of times you're right. Listen to the crowd. See what's the most logical idea kind of between the two. Could be really close to what you thought, could be really close to what the crowd thought. Accept that new view as your probabilistic likely reality. Continue to think about that view yourself, continue to examine others' opinions, and modify that view on the margins to get it more and more clear over time. Fuck, that's not really a quotable quote, but God damn it, I think it's right on the money. All right, quote number 3. Quote, the only one you can accurately compare yourself to is you. The good. This is incredibly helpful advice, not just for lifting, but all of life, definitely for physique purposes. I mean, you have a different training history than other people. Here's a big one. I know it'll shock you. You have very different genetics than other people. Forget about PEDs. It's a lot easier to take performance-enhancing drugs than it is to get new genetics or rewrite your history. At least one of those is intractable according to the laws of modern physics. The genetics one is a few years, maybe decades off. PEDs is nominal. But all three of those things are so different that if you really think about what you're doing when you're comparing yourself to someone else, you're trying to learn what is it that they're doing better than me that means that they have better results. But there's a fatal conceit in there. You actually can't parse the data. You can't parse the difference and accurately assign cause and effect to what it is you thought was different. You see some guy in the gym with pretty impressive arms and he's curling like just kind of weird like style. And you're like, that's it. That's it. Fucking knew it. That's the way to do it. That's why his arms are big. Do you really know that? Maybe his arms are smaller than they used to be. He got his big arms curling normally, but then he had a nasty elbow injury, and this weird way is the only way he can curl now. And his arms are 90% of what they used to be, and he's just regaining a size. Could you imagine if he told you that right after you're like, dude, I love the curl techniques. That we got your arms? He's like, actually, no, it's backwards. You're like, look, remember, you don't know why two people are different, but all you do know is for sure they have different genetics, unless they're identical twins. And definitely during a different upbringing and possibly some supplements in the mix that you may not be taking. So comparing yourself to other people in a very straightforward way is a fool's errand because it's like, what the fuck? What are you trying to learn? You can't even learn anything doing this. So that's definitely the good stuff. Very, very good stuff about this. The bad stuff. And this is just low-key bad, lowercase b. In bodybuilding and in all other competition, you will be compared to others. better do it yourself first. Look at some pictures of who you're up against versus getting shocked like crazy at the competition. You don't want to train in your own dungeon and be like, I'm fucking killing it, brother. It's like when people are like, post their last physique pic, and let's not assume they're the best of all time, and they're like, getting ready for the show, man, feeling good. There's always some people in the comments, don't know dog shit about the sport, or people that should know better but don't. They're like, you're going to crush it, Taylor. Oh my God, you're going to win. First place only. Ha! It's like, bitch, how do you know who else is showing up? You don't. You have no idea. Ronnie Coleman could come out of retirement and be like, hell no, you taking fifth. Wait, hold on, Ronnie. But there's only two of us. That's right. You got to be 3 spots away from me, motherfucker. Ronnie, you don't typically swear. Fuck you. That's what I don't do. Okay. You have no idea who's showing up. If you pay attention to the competition, you might know a little better, and you at least kind of generally know where you stack up. And to that point, if you at least know the standard you're up against, again, in competition, maybe you can push yourself just that much further and beat out more of the competition. Sometimes I'll check out guys. I know how bad that. Scott, why are you laughing again? Here we go again. Mike is letter G, letter A, letter Y. Someone's writing that down. Like, oh, my word. Sometimes I'll look at other people's Instagram pictures. I can't remotely be as jacked as them, but it motivates me to make just book a little better myself. I look at Derek Lunsford's waist, Mr. Olympia, and I'm like, I could diet a little bit more intelligently. Just get a little bit more of that crispity, crunchity shit. So it's cool to compare yourself to others if you're doing it in a positive way. It gives you a good reference frame and maybe a little bit of an inspiration to push a little harder in your own right. As long as you don't get really maladaptive and low self-esteem-y with the shit, you're totally good to go. Because there's a way to compare yourself to others that's really inspirational. Like, oh man, that guy's amazing. I might never reach that. Boy, I'll try. Oh boy, 50s kid. Well, gee whiz, mister, I just want to spend 20 years of my life taking deleterious hormones and having no friends so I can have one trophy. Oh, gee whiz. Right. I thought that through. Fuck, 50s kids on some wisdom. That's stupid as fuck. Quit bodybuilding while you're behind. But on a real note, you can get real nasty with the shit. You start comparing yourself to other people, be like, man, fucking legs are small, bro. Like, all right, well, just do your best to get them better. And like, nah, man, look at all these other fuck guys, huge fucking legs, man. It just fucking suck. Like, hey, Frank, I don't know where you're going with this. I think you're just really sad. And maybe you should have a marijuana cigarette and have some intercourse. That always brightens me up. Just kidding. I never smoke because I've got virgin lungs and I cough a lot. In any case, quote number 4. Quote, carrying a set to a point where you are forced to utilize 100% of your momentary ability is the single most important factor in increasing size and strength. Very Mentzerian. Absolutist. The good. Getting really close to failure is definitely an important factor in muscle growth. Especially muscle growth, a little bit less strength, but definitely strength as well. Hypertrophy signaling on a one-to-one basis of how close do I get to failure versus how much molecular signaling for muscle growth is elevated is probably like a little exponential curve where the closer you get, the more signaling. And right at failure and even beyond, you get the most growth, hands down, from any one given set or one given session of training. Absolutely. We don't talk about sustainability because there's another problem with that. But in any one case, yeah, failure is the best. So it's definitely true to say that getting at least close to failure is a wise move in trying to make your best gains. So there's totally wisdom in this statement. However, he says it's the single most important factor. Basically, getting to failure is the most important factor in increasing size and strength. That's actually wrong. The most important factor is intensity, which is a stupid sports sciencey way of saying load on the bar. How heavy are you going? Generally, you want to be somewhere between the 5 rep range and the 30 rep range. For example, if you go to failure with a set of 100 continuous repetitions, you'll get fucked up once because it's a novel stimulus, but after that, it's just not a very good way to grow muscle. On the other hand, if you go to failure with 1 rep, your 1 rep max, that's just not the best way to go for strength gains or for size gains for that matter. So it turns out that being in that boundary layer of 5 to 30 reps-ish roughly for size, and if we're being generous, 2 to 10 or 2 to 8 repetitions for strength, challenging reps in those rep ranges, challenging sets in those rep ranges, that actually is the most important thing about training. Whether or not you hit failure is not nearly as important. And to that end, you don't actually have to get to failure itself. If you stop every single set of your life at 3 reps in reserve, you are likely to get 95% of the gains you would ever have gotten. 2 reps in reserve, 97%. 1 rep in reserve, 99%. And may occasionally go into failure while mostly doing 3, 2, and 1 reps in reserve is probably going to get you the best possible gains, even better gains, especially if you train a lot and you're really big and recovery is a problem for you, even better than going to failure on all your sets. Almost certainly. So yin and yang. Great point about failure is very important, but it's neither the most important nor is it just better no matter what. There's context. Quote number 5. Quote, man is an indivisible entity, an integrated unit of mind and body. Before I get into good and the bad, why did he say woman spelled with Y and shit? Because honestly, men are gross. I want to be a feminist at least one day in my life. By that, I mean a woman. Hey, males of this channel, the 99.999% of you that are our audience, if you happened to be a woman, I don't know, say a fine-ass woman too, for one day, what would you do with your time? Here are some options. Stay at home, jazz music, candles, touch yourself, probably in the mirror. Option number 2, go out to the club, lesbian club, really such a thing, and just fucking slay. Or, Scott, what else we got? I know, Scott, I know what you like. You're in a woman's body. You're a hot fucking woman. You put on your damnedest, sluttiest shit, and you just go out to the mall, to the fucking pawn shop, to the club. Doesn't matter. It just dudes slay 24/7. You wouldn't do that last part, right? That's weird. Anyway, vote in the comments. In any case, man is an indivisible entity, an integrated unit of mind and body. Here's the good thing. I love the vibe. It's a dope fucking vibe. There's a huge internal locus of control thing there where it's you're fucking in charge, bro. And you're not just in charge of your mind, but your body as well. And because they work as an integrated unit, it's really important to realize that not only should you be working on your body, but you should be working on your mental acuity as well. Because if you have a very strong mind, it can milk the most out of your body. If you have a very strong body, it can elevate your strong mind to perform at its best. So there's a ton of synergy there. And people who train their bodies a lot, but not their minds a ton, and vice versa, could find huge benefits in not pretending that their body is just totally unattached to their mind and vice versa. The bad, and this is all technicalities, I have to be a pedantic asshole. Quadriplegics in their existence have proven that the mind and body are completely separate if necessary, and so this quote is inaccurate on its base principle. And also something called the split brain experiment, where they take the brain and they take the corpus callosum and they cut it in half. They don't just do it for fun. It's usually to mitigate insane seizures when you're really young. It actually makes the mind, in a sense, pretty deep sense, 2 different minds. And so the mind actually is also a divisible entity, it turns out. And the more you zoom into how human psychology works, the more you realize what you think is the indivisible entity of your mind is actually a lot of software programs running simultaneously. So trippy. So this quote, while in a technical sense is actually totally wrong, in the spirit sense of what it's trying to convey is fucking baller, and I'm here for it. Quote number 6. It is the body that produces growth, but only if left undisturbed during a sufficient rest period. The good. Most growth happens during rest. Absolutely true. Many people focus way too much on training and way not enough on rest, and they pay the fucking price with disappointing gains. I'm not going to say who this bodybuilder is. I quite honestly barely remember, but there was a bodybuilder a few years back. I was on Instagram touching myself, and Unrelated. No, wait, very related. I was on Instagram in order to have enough visual stimulus so that I could touch myself productively. And I scrolled to a bodybuilder. I'm like, I need this shit. I usually just do this to powerlifters. And he had a post, different time zone. And he was like, 1 a.m., just hitting the gym, got to get the work done. Most people aren't here, so fuck them. They're missing out. And it's like, I feel that like Gary V grind hustle energy. It's dope. But motherfucker, you supposed to be asleep at 1 a.m. because your body's like making all the growth hormones then. And the circadian rhythm says you should be asleep. And if you throw that off, you actually get poorer gains. So why don't you wake up a little early, go to the gym early, get to sleep at a fucking decent hour, and then you'll get your best gains, period. But a lot of times our obsession with grinding and hardcore and work, and we forget that the other, and at least half of the equation, probably more, as Mike Mentzer often said, is growth and recovery. Like you see a bodybuilder in the gym, most people see a bodybuilder in the gym pumping up and they'd be like, he's growing. Like, nope, wrong. He's actually not growing right now. They're like, okay. And they see a bodybuilder in like a fucking super comfy chair, a lazy boy eating pasta and ground beef. And they're like, lazy. Nope, he's actually growing. He's doing his job now. But I guess that is what it is. And physiologically, it's absolutely true. The bad, and I'm being real pedantic here. So Mike Mentzer get a big old thick cut of slack. Scott, what is slack exactly?
Like leeway.
No, I know what you fucking asshole. I know what it means figuratively. Literally, because people say cut slack. Is it like a cheese-like substance? Is it a butter? Is it more like a cork? Is it like a bark? What do we think? Okay. Scott, fuck you. Guys, if you want to apply...
Russian don't understand how it
Welcome to America, you Russian son of a bitch. Woo! Woo! All right. So, I'm telling you, man, this guy, red, white, and blue, he bleeds. Problem is, he never bleeds. So, yes. Okay, fine, Scott, fuck you. Guys, we're looking for another video guy. Shoot us a DM. We'll get you Scott's job. The bad. Moving around a little bit in many situations, not all. Things like walks, stretching out, light training. That one bitch from 3 apartments down that always wanted to meet you comes over. You know what I'm talking about. You sit there awkwardly and watch Netflix. Do you like TV shows? Yes. Good. We will be watching them. That's all you really have to say, and then you're in the fucking juice. That kind of shit can be really excellent for recovery, and it doesn't just mean standing still or laying down. So you don't want to take this quote to an irrational extreme, but the meat and potatoes of it is fucking super wise. Quote number 7. Quote, man's proper stature is not one of mediocrity, failure, frustration, or defeat, but one of achievement, strength, and nobility. In short, man can and ought to be a hero. What's the good? The spirit energy of this quote is at a fucking 11. I love this shit. If you disagree with the general tenor, the theme, the mood of this quote, I don't want to meet you in real life. I think you should live your sad fucking life alone somewhere where you talk to no one and bring no one down. This shit is fucking baller. We got to critique it a little bit. So what are the downsides? It's very Ayn Rand. Now, for those of you who don't know, tattoo number 1, cover of an Ayn Rand book. Tattoo number 2, very shittily rendered, another cover of an Ayn Rand book. This is Atlas Shrugged, and this is Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. If you Google them, the fucking literal covers will come up. So I'm not fresh to the Ayn Rand game. But with all philosophies that go a little extreme, some of them go off the rails a little bit. And there's a lot of stuff in the Randian approach to objectivism, which really is objectivism. She invented the shit. It just gets a little kooky in the sense that people essentially try to drag a level of precision out of terms, definitions, and systems that is not there. For example, the term proper, you might have noticed, man's proper stature. But exactly what does proper mean? Is it something like, it would be nice if? Maybe that's a more logical way of saying it. It doesn't have that. Because a lot of Randians, they say, man's proper mind, man's meaning, proper. And you're like, you just say, I prefer this. Or at least try to couch it in some kind of more objective terminology. Hilariously ironic with objectivism. But proper is kind of a buzzword that's just dumped in, and you're like, okay, I guess that means good. I'm not going to belabor this point. So I could critique objectivism until I'm blue in the fucking face. Oh, and people that come at me for the fucking tattoos, I can critique objectivism better than you. So take a shot in the comments and I'll probably never see it. But if I do, oh, gee whiz, I'm going to nerd out like crazy. Never seen some incel shit like this. In any case, I prefer more scientifically guarded, proper language. Ha! Like that. More logical and scientifically guarded language than the one is used here. Like, it sounds really lame, which is why I'm no philosopher. Like, most people like achievements better than failure. It doesn't have that fucking ring. But I am just splitting hairs, and this is a great quote. So I'll just be shutting the fuck up and going to quote number 8. Quote number 8. It is only within the context of having a properly developed, I fucked that up. It is only within the context of having properly developed your mind that you will be able to truly enjoy the achievement of your material values, including that of a more muscular body. Now, my second PhD is in sport physiology. My first 5 PhDs, that's right, think about that, is in learning how to appreciate muscular bodies. And don't I do it well? Scott, remember that one time we were on a shoot in Montreal in your hotel room, the shower broke, so you had to come shower, but then they had that thing where there was fires, so we had to conserve water, and I ended up just like lathering your body for an hour straight.
It was a sponge bath, yeah.
Did you feel cared for?
Yeah.
Did you feel appreciated?
And clean.
Well, physically, morally, the dirtiest of your life. Would you say that I appreciated your muscular body?
I would say that.
Do you claim to have a muscular body?
I would not say that.
Wait, hold on. I retract the earlier in favor of saying nothing at all. All right. So the good. A developed mind absolutely allows you to appreciate more things. To pick on kids for a second, which why wouldn't I do that? It's the most politically correct thing ever. You know, like, fuck it, I'll say it. There's like rich ass little kids that like their parents will buy them a ticket with the parents, I guess, in the flight to like international business. Like international business class means you lay back seats, right? You bitch ass little 6-year-old, you cannot possibly, you do not have the cerebrum to appreciate the miraculousness of the experience being delivered to you. Just get out of that seat. Let your boy get in there. I paid for economy, but I'm saying, what y'all, mom and dad, your kid ain't sitting here no more. And go back and watch Disney movies in the economy seat, which you're 1/6 the size of. You'll appreciate that just fine. So a developed mind, TLDR, definitely just can appreciate everything better. Now the bad. Just a couple pedantries here. What is a properly developed mind? Is it a binary? Proper, improper? No, I think that's probably not true. Another thing is, what if you develop your mind so much that you become kind of an elite Buddhist and you're no longer really appreciating much about earthly sensations at all? How many Buddhists do you know, people of true deep stillness, bodybuild, in a sense kind of waste their time cultivating the physical form while sort of by definition ignoring the mental form? Yeah, that doesn't add up a whole lot. He has another quote in there. Another part of the quote is truly enjoy. What does truly enjoy mean? Isn't it a spectrum? Wouldn't you enjoy more things if you had developed, etc.? And this quote is a perfect example of simplifying and making precise something past the point of optimality. It's been said that, try to explain things in the simplest way possible, but no simpler, because then you just miss details. This is one of those things where it's like, properly developed and true enjoyment. And it's like, these is more relativistic terms. Like the more you develop your mind, the more you can enjoy the achievement of your material values, including that of a more muscular body. That would have been a cooler way to say it in my view, but who gives a shit what I think? I'm a fucking nobody with no friends, no career, and even pets shy away from me. Quote number 9. One cannot actualize his goals until he visualizes them clearly in the mind's eye. Very eye of the tiger. Very 80s, too. So I think in a sense this could be technically true. One could say that clear goals are the only kind you can shake a stick at. If your goal isn't clear, what is your goal? If you can't describe to someone your goal, do you really have a goal? I don't think so. In addition to that, once you can visualize a goal very clearly, you can definitely be more effective at marshaling the resources and willpower to actually actualizing it, because the willpower has a backstop. Anytime you start losing your steam, wait a minute, I have this distinct goal and I need this. Like if you're on a karate kicking mission to save your wife from sex and drug smugglers. Anytime you get tired or they start beating you up, you can be like, wait, my wife, Kia! Or if you're Steven Seagal in any of his movies, you just halfway through the movie go to a strip club because you forgot your wife was kidnapped. But then the movie resumes to further nonsense. By the way, there's a channel I think called Space Ice, and they have Steven Seagal movie reviews. You're welcome. You're going to laugh a lot. It's fucking unbelievable. In any case, yeah, knowing the goal is fucking great. And if you know exactly the goal, you kind of start to figure out the inputs to the goal. You're like, I'm going to gain 20 pounds. Exactly, 20 pounds. What does that mean? What do I need to eat? How much do I need to train? How long is it going to take? If you have a very clear goal, all of the inputs in it can theoretically be derived. If you have a very hazy goal, where you're like, yeah, I just want to gain some weight. Okay, what the fuck does some mean? What do you do then? Okay, I don't really know what to do. So that sucks. The bad. My personal opinion is that goals are wildly overrated. What? It's not motivational. Here's what's underrated. Working diligently in a general constructive direction is super underrated. Goals, explicit things we're trying to reach, behavioral patterns that construct greatness. I think these things are more important. I think goals are not so important. I'll prove it to you in the following bullshit make-believe story that I made up in my head and typed out. If you just lift and eat, and your only goal is that you want to get bigger and leaner, you can do this for a decade. And after 9 years of cranking, you decide, you know what? I think I'm pretty big, pretty lean. I think I want to turn pro. You do your first show, you win that. You go to nationals, you win that. You turn pro after 10 years. Not a single time during the first 9 years was your goal to turn pro. Ostensibly, if goals were that important, how the fuck would you be able to accomplish your goal if 90% of the time that you were working towards it, you weren't even working towards it? There was no goal. The reality here, though, as you can start to see, is it doesn't matter what goal you have in your head at the end of the day. Like, all right, watch this right now. I'm going to win the Olympics 2024. Dr. Mike, isn't there a drug test? Oh yeah. A few people have passed it before that are on drugs. Dr. Mike, don't you have to be talented in an actual sport and beat the world's best? Fuck, that's right. Okay, never mind. But just because I pick a goal doesn't mean I'm any closer to it. However, if I pour my fucking time and energy into getting better, I'm getting better. And at some point, I'm so goddamn good at whatever it is I'm doing, then if I pick a goal, I'm there stat, bro. I'm there quick. A lot of people think that success comes from having this unalterable vision of a distant reality and going, that is what I'm doing. And a lot of times success does come like that to people sufficiently gifted and hardworking. But I think for many people, a slightly better way to be like, I want great things. I want to be big and strong and jacked and finally be able to muster the courage to speak to a woman in public in a way that she doesn't try to tase me for. And if I just practice and work and suffer and grind and rest, I'm going to build up so much capacity that if I actually get to a point where I can define a very clear goal, I might realize like, holy shit, I'm really, really close to the shit. It's the work that matters more than the goal. And I know it's lame to say that in a certain sense because goals are so like, oh yeah, like vision boards and shit like that, which is all dope and has its value. But I'm just trying to say there's another side of the story where don't get too goal focused, maybe get work focused, build something. What matters most is working and improving. You work and improve for a while, you can have a fucking goal. How did Scott the Video Guy get this whole YouTube gig? When I found Scott, I walked by a gutter in New York City. He was there in a fetal position, naked, I might add, with only a guitar covering his genitals. He was so cold, he was so pathetic. And I was like, sir, can I help you in any way? He's like, really? Just like a job? 'Cause music doesn't fucking pay. And I was like, oh my God. All right, get in here, you old scamp. I wrapped him up in a blanket, took him home. Paul, doesn't have any friends or family, so I did what I wanted with his body. It was fun. But after that, I was like, hey, do you want the chance to do YouTube? He wasn't like, all right, well, we got to have 2 million subscribers by 2025 or I'm out. He didn't say any of that. He was just like, hey, like, I'd like to do a good job. And he did. And now we're rolling in literal YouTube money. Wait, that wouldn't be literal, would it? Scott, do you actually get paid for this job?
I get paid in goodwill.
Isn't that nice? Mr. Nick Shaw, CEO of RP, is so kind to us. He doesn't want to, because they say money is the root of all evil. Scott, you and I can absolutely claim to be pure good because we've never seen a fucking dime from any of the shit that we do. It's so nice for Nick. Nick is really sin eating on our behalf, isn't he? He takes all the money so we don't have to have all that dirt on our conscience. In any case, focus more on work, more on getting better, maybe a little bit less on exact goals. And when the time comes when you're a fucking baller, you make a goal and maybe you've already surpassed. Boom. Last quote number 10. The proper attitude is to go into the gym like a rational human being and perform only the precise amount of exercise required by nature. More is not better. Less is not better. The precise amount required is best. So first of all, that actually contradicts one of the earlier quotes I went off on, but this quote is much more correct. So we got good, we got bad. For some reason, I typed in a lot of bad and not a lot of good. The good is really, really good. So I'll just say the good first. This is just true. The quote's fucking true. Most of us want to be in the gym to get our best results. And that amount that gets us our best results is like, that's kind of important. And so, yeah, absolutely. We're there not to spend any less time than we have to, not to spend any more time than we have to. We're there to get what we need. So facts, straight up, capital F. The bad. A little pedantry and a little bit of, I think, accurate critiquing. Mike Mentzer liked to say optimal a lot. But the research around his era of sports science was not sufficiently clarifying to tell us what that was. And we still have no acute way to measure what your maximum adaptive volume is. Question, after 4 sets of bicep curls, should you do another set or 2 or 3, or should you go home? How do you know? You don't. And guess what? I don't. I had a PhD in this fucking shit. We tried a bunch of stuff. We tried cell-free DNA, maybe a somewhat of an accurate marker of damage and thus can proxy to hypertrophy, but that didn't work out so well. So yes, in theory or in hypothesis, in notion, it's cool to talk about like exactly the optimal amount. Because when Mike Mentzer and his boys get on that shit, most people are like, yes, exactly the optimal. Yes, yeah. And then they're expecting like, so what is it? And then usually the hit people just render fantasies. Like it's just 1 set. Or it's whatever Dorian did. And it's like, but excuse me, how do you know that? And it just turns out they don't. They just kind of fucking made it up.
What do you get when PhD sports scientists collaborate with pro bodybuilders? The most effective muscle growth training app ever made. Get yours now.
So the best we have for what is actually optimal is some shitty, two things. One is like, how good were my gains in the past mesocycle versus the ones before? Tons of confounders, but at least it's the most meat and potatoes way to ascertain if you're on the right path or not. But we also have these like stimulus and fatigue proxies, things like pump and soreness and strength and recovery. And the thing is, Mike Mentzer sure as fuck didn't know about them because I had to be the first person in the scientific field, and I think technically in bodybuilding, to unify the theory of how important they were and that these things could be used as valid proxies for training. I just did that in the last 10 years. Mike Mentzer didn't know them. And what's worse, as I kind of said earlier, sometimes he pretended to know them. He said 1 set to failure is all you need. And it's like, guys, I don't mean to be a dick because Mike Mentzer had a lot of good shit going on. That's just make-believe, man. 1 set for everyone, no matter what, it's disappointing. And he liked to say shit like, as required by nature. Like, what does nature say about sets in the gym with artificially made human equipment? The fuck are you talking about, dude? Wacky stuff. The meat and potatoes, the idea behind the quote is baller, but there are many ways to take quotes like that and go off into crazy town, for lack of a better term. All right. Wrapping it up. My 2 cents about Mike Mentzer. I'll go bad to good this time to leave us on a nice note. Many of his ideas and many of the reasonings to his ideas were just wrong. Some wrong on the margins. Failure wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the best. Some by a long shot, like 1 set to failure per week is good for almost anyone. Couple more examples. 1, failure is not categorically superior to reps in reserve. It's just not. He thought it was. He was wrong. Less volume is not categorically superior to more volume. He was a huge advocate of less volume, and that's probably wrong. If you had to make a probabilistic caricature of the literature, you would probably be more right in saying more volume is better than less. Just what the studies say. Don't kill me, guys. I'm just a messenger. And lastly, one set to failure is not a magic number, maximum adaptive volume for everyone. It's probably a maximum adaptive volume for almost no one. People beyond 2 or 3 weeks of the first time ever training, for most people, more volume per session per week is better than that. That's the bad stuff about Mike Mentzer. What's the good stuff? Mike Mentzer publicly, and this is very good, was a thinking person and encouraged everyone around him to think, to use logic, to use reason, to think about best practices, and to question tradition. And that's huge, because that's more than you can say for most bodybuilders even today. Most bodybuilders are like, yeah, man, just fucking do what works, bro. Shut the fuck up. Don't talk, because there's no information coming out of your mouth. Just do this, fucking take steroids, eat protein, get this, that's it. There's a picture of you will suffice. There's no reason to speak. You're a fucking idiot. Go back and watch all of Mike Mentzer's shit. Think at least somewhat, try to pretend you're Mike Mentzer, and then you'll just be a better person for it. So Mike Mentzer was straight up ahead of his time at his core, because he tried to reason, he tried to think. And he did this bereft of most exercise and sports science knowledge. Today, you motherfuckers out there are goddamn privileged. And I don't mean social justice warrior nonsense privilege that's magical and fairy tales and can't debate against anyone. I mean real privilege. Like, it's on, you guys have ChatGPT. You can just ask it about training. You guys have this channel. You have 50 other channels you can look up. You could just know so much shit about training, which straight up didn't know. Mike Mentzer tried to figure things out and did a pretty good job of it too. At the time when most people were like, no offense, but you guys ever listen to like Arnold talk about his fucking bodybuilding shit? Yeah, you've got to isolate the bicep, and then afterward you do the tricep, and then I like this closer grip, it works, that thing is right. It's like, Arnold, that's all nonsense, bro. Arnold was right about some shit, but like Mike Mentzer, intellectually, as far as thinking deeply about bodybuilding, he scooted the fuck away from the pack, which is awesome. You can do a little bit of that yourself. In our modern era, by reading, experimenting, thinking, not just doing dogmatic stuff and seeing meh results. Think a lot, read a lot, learn a lot, practice and experiment a lot, and you're going to put on your little Mike Mentzer hat because you know all the shit Mike Mentzer didn't know. You can be that much better for yourself. And that's, I think, the spirit of Mike Mentzer that lives, technically speaking, in all of us. All right. Beginners, intermediates, advanced. What do you get out of this lecture? Many people will just scoot to this last part. Beginners, don't worry about any of this stuff. Hopefully the jokes were funny. Just train with excellent technique and aim to get a bit stronger with every session or every 2 sessions, and you're good to go. Intermediates, try lower volumes and higher proximities to failure, higher relative efforts, going close to failure with low volume. Try higher volume, but with RIR, 2 or 3 reps in reserve. See which one bangs best for you. It could be that one bangs better than the other, then just do mostly that one. It could be that it's muscle group specific, like for your biceps, failure sets are great. For triceps, RIR works better. I've had that happen on my physique a bunch of times. But it could be both. Like sometimes you train to failure for a while and it works fucking awesome with low volume. Then you kind of run aground, you switch to a higher volume, less to failure program, and you get really crazy new radical growth. Sometimes variation is the spice of life. So there's a huge mix and match you can do, but if you don't practice yourself and you don't experiment on yourself, you'll never quite be able to tell which one works best for you. Now, for the advanced, main points. As an advanced lifter, allegedly so-called advanced, you have to find your minimum effective volumes. You have to find your maximum recoverable volumes. You have to train between them somewhere between 3 reps in reserve, 2 with forced reps, -2 reps in reserve, and figure out where you get your best stimulus to fatigue ratios in those ranges and do more of that thing that works. And that's something you should be able to know as an advanced lifter very well about yourself. I'm going to say some shit that's a little controversial, but I think it's fucking true. Schools of thought. There's the fucking high volume people. There's the HIIT people. All kinds of different schools of thought about bodybuilding. I'm old school, bro. And fuck that. I'm a new school TikToker. Scroll, scroll, swipe, swipe, whatever. If you think you're advanced and you still have a school of thought, I'm going to cut you the realest deal. You're not advanced. You're just following the crowd. Advanced lifters, who are always also advanced thinkers, use all of the modes of thoughts and philosophies on the margins. My chest gets really sore from minimum training. It's just a super responsive muscle group. So I'll do 2 sets of close grip incline, couple sets of dips, post that, and people are like, I thought you were a high volume guy. What are you doing, HIIT now? Then my shoulders, which I can train for an intensely absurd amount of time, I'll post like at 4th shoulder training session of this fucking week, did 6 sets of laterals. People are like, so you're a high volume guy? Nope. I thought you were a HIIT guy. Didn't you do 2 sets of bench? Like, oh my fucking God. Folks, it's probably better to stop trying to see the world through just hugely filtered lenses of this low volume guy, I'm a high volume guy, I'm a failure guy, I'm an RIR guy, and start to see that there's a context in which everything has its right place. And specifically, various strategies have the right place for you at the right time for you. Learn how your body works, experiment with everything, and you're going to see a map of where and how training is best for you and for many other people, especially if you coach. You are no longer then containing yourself to just one mindset. You use all styles, which Bruce Lee said that shit. Kia! Hi! Anyway, I cancel for that one. Folks, let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment, YouTube, Mr. Beast, all that shit. See you guys next time.